When the DOP see this, they're gonna be like, "Yo, Paul, how's it going, huh? Listen, man, yeah, I don't know if I'm available for that shoot." Opening scene, bam, we're at the Super Bowl and the Pepsi logo pops up, and that's a tough one because like over the years I've seen so many great Super Bowl ads. In fact, I believe we have a South African creative who's a senior art director that's actually won an award for one of these ads that ended up at the Super Bowl. But to be honest with you, from my standpoint, I think one of the most viewed Super Bowl ads would probably be the Super Bowl halftime show. Whoever's performing during the halftime show, I know they usually do these promos where, like last year it was, who performed last year? Last year it was Usher. The year before I think it was Eminem and Dre. It was Dr. Dre or something. The West Coast thing, and they did this dope ad where they traveled into these, these various worlds. The Pepsi one, yeah. So I think for me it would be that, bro. Just because of I feel like it takes so much work, effort, team, collaborations, and as a director, they probably, in fact, I hope they give you a lot of creative license to come up with something that will like just engage the audiences to want to watch the halftime show. You know what I mean? Because most of I think the reason why most people know about the Super Bowl is because of how popularized the halftime show is. Other than that, so for me, it would be whatever brand is working on that at that particular point in time. I don't want to shoot that ad and work with that brand. Yo, damn, bro. When the DOP see this, they're gonna be like, "Yo, Paul, how's it going, huh? Listen, man, yeah, I don't know if I'm available for that shoot." My favorite DOPs over the years. Yo, let me think about this, bro. There's so many DOPs that I still really want to work with. A lot of DOPs whose work I think is amazing. Local DOPs, obviously. International, yeah, for sure, given. But from a local standpoint, the ones that I have personally worked with, I've created a relationship. There's a lot of my work, when I look at my reel, I think they're about, and what makes me feel like these DOPs are my go-tos and DOPs that I would consider my best DOPs is because when I look at my reel, I've done the most work with them. Like a lot of my work has been shot by them. And so far, one of those DOPs as it stands is, I'm not sure if you guys know him, but Adam Vanoka. He's a great guy in person, just as a personality, but he's actually got a really strong, sharp eye, and he's helped me create a lot of good looking films and music videos that I've collaborated with him on. I think he shot essentially, I think it was all 3 of my Something Soweto music videos at the time. We then went on to shoot Black Cat, Marty Blizzard. He's amazing too. He shot my recent music video for Wake Up, which was a Spanish collaboration, and then there was a project that we just did now, a commercial for Promise Agency for AfriSat, and he made it look crisp. And the reason I choose these DOPs, it's not, there's so many other DOPs that I've worked with whose work I love, bro. Moteo, Brendan Barnes, I still really want to work with Haupi. I've worked with Diani Nyembe before, and he's dope. But these are people who I've had a long-term experience with, and they are able to take any kind of budget and look at the director's treatment and see what it needs and see where the director's trying to go and apply that vision accordingly from a technical point of view to try and match up exactly what you might have had in mind. Whether whether that's your lensing or the the look and feel of your film, they always try to marry accordingly to what you had in mind. You know, even if you're working with a small team, the lighting teams are strong, the gaffers are strong, and for me, that's why I feel like I've established a good relationship with those guys. So yeah. In layman's terms, basically what you have is at the top of the triangle, like a triangle. At the top of the triangle, you've got the client. Then bottom right of the triangle, could be bottom left, depending on how you're looking at it. But from my side, it's obviously, you know, bottom left. You've got the agency, then you've got production. And that's how like it works. It just keeps like triangulating like that. A lot of people think that directing is just skills based. Like you need to know everything, or you just need to have a vision. And to be honest with you, that's not really, I've come to learn that that's not necessarily what directing is. I think directing is the ability to people manage. You gotta know how to like manage people, because if you're trying to be a successful director and you don't know how to talk to or how to relay your ideas to other people and let it come alive to the extent that you had envisioned it, then that does not necessarily make you a good director. Like you've got to know. That's why, like, I know you have producers where if it's challenging for you to have a good relationship with people, like if your people skills aren't amazing, your producer steps in. But it's, for me, the biggest skill set that you need to have as a director is the ability to relate to people and relay your ideas and basically just manage different facets of production. Shit, interesting question. I think what really inspired me to want to get into the world of making moving content, because I don't want to say film specifically. Like I eventually started getting into films at some point, but it didn't start with films, to be honest with you. So when I was young, and I used to stutter, like bad, like big time, you know. So I had a speech impairment, and then I was introduced to the world of hip hop, and then through hip hop, I was listening to rap, and then I would recite it back, and then strangely enough, it just so happened that my speech kept getting better and better and better and better. But I fell in love with the genre of hip hop and music as a whole, man. But the type of hip hop that I liked at the time was storytelling hip hop. And the older I became, I realized how big of an influence Eminem's music. M's music, I think I was like 11 or 12 or 10 or something, and the way he told his stories, it sounded very cinematic, you know. And then I started developing an interest in how his music videos were shot, and then because M's music was Stan and how all those things were done, and they had like, it was a story, bro, and the way it was shot, it was cinematic, it's beautiful, you know. And then that got me into the world of being interested in music videos more than anything. Movies are great, and commercials are also great. It's just that you can tell that the general public sometimes don't appreciate commercials the same way that we do, but the creativity behind it is freeing, you know. And so I don't know, it's hard to choose between those three genres, bro, because I've seen the process of what making films is like when I watched other directors working on their film sets, and they seem to enjoy it more because they say there's a lot more creative, client doesn't have control, you know. And I'm like, okay, that sounds exciting, sounds like something that I'm keen to do. But when you watch the end result, I think you get a lot more acknowledgement from movies than you do from commercials on a bigger scale, you know. I think that's why most people want to go into movies, because like the name is there, people, you know, it's like this is the director's work or Tia's work. Whereas with commercials, you could create something amazing and nobody's really going to, some people will not know except for the internal team who created this amazing project. But it might influence somebody differently. If you're not in the industry or you're not passionate about it, you don't really care. You're just like, oh, that was dope, you know. As to who made it, it's not like a thing of yours. With movies sometimes too, but I find that there's a bigger attraction to like, because at the end of the film, it's like, bah, your stamp is there, directed by, you know. And but process-wise, so I still love to get to movie. It's a hard answer to say, bro. So yeah, it was the choreography first. Choreography came, and then DOP was like, cool, let's move with her like this. Let's lens this one like that. So her movements essentially influenced how we were going to shoot it. I think also the nude aspect of things, just because it was called Wake Up, the idea of, you know, being bare, being like the rebirth of something, you know what I'm saying? Feeling fresh, feeling new. And so we wanted to apply that thinking into how she looked. And over and above that, I think I also wanted it to feel quite dystopian, you know. So when you look at dystopian films, the color palette is very much like that. The bald head, everything looks very uniformed, and there's a certain, you know, it feels otherworldly. So I was also going for that approach in terms of her look and the wardrobe and styling and all that. We met while driving through town. We went to the Maboneng precinct. There's a recycling area there. We ran into a guy who's this colored guy who also speaks in the docu, basically kind of narrates the whole thing. And we told him that we're thinking about doing this thing and shooting these guys, and he was like, he'll be our guide around that world, the other recyclers. So that was the first point of contact. And when shooting guerrilla style, it's always best to find somebody who understands that world that you're trying to tap into more than you do. Somebody that's safe, somebody that's reliable and trustworthy. So we took his numbers, spoke about giving him a certain amount of money. He was cool with it. We arranged for a day that we're gonna come back, because we obviously need to go back and plan and see how we're gonna shoot this thing. And then he kind of outsourced the people that we got a chance to speak to. And I think that guy played a key role in terms of ensuring that the project came to life, you know. And so I would say that the first way to approach guerrilla filmmaking is to associate yourself to somebody who can help navigate you through whatever concept it is that you want to shoot, that has an understanding of it, and can connect you to the people that you want to connect to, you know. Kindness, gratitude goes a long way, bro. Gratitude will get you, you know, more than you think it should or could or will, you know. So kindness definitely goes a long way, because regardless of whatever position that person has, either on your production or in life, you know, it could be somebody rolling cables and they help you out with something, or you help them out with something. You know that whenever you get onto the next production, or whenever you do something, or you are in an area that they might live in or whatever, and you know, they will reciprocate that kindness in some form of way, you know, and you will reciprocate it too. Whether you tell your production you want to work with this person again, can we contact that guy, or whether they run into you somewhere and they want to link you with other people, you know how kindness spreads. And I think it's super important to always be humble and generous to like the people that you meet and work with. So okay, so the most recent projects that we just worked on now are, the first one was for Coca-Cola. It was amazing because we got to collaborate with Uncle Waffles, and it was for the launch of the Creations campaign called Woza. So what they did was they took creators from all over Africa and they got them to design the new product layering for Coke that was inspired by African creativity. And that's why it's called Woza, because it's an invitation into the world of African creativity. So that was pretty exciting. Had a huge, massive launch, And then the other one I just recently did was for AfriSam, the cement brand. And it was a hilarious script, very comedic. They took a completely different approach. And essentially the story is about this guy who has this wild fascination with a guy who's called Brajo and his house's walls, because everything he talks about relates back to Brajo's and his amazing texture of his house's walls. And those are the two projects which have kept me busy. Really cool, two completely separate projects. What I loved about the Coca-Cola job specifically was the fact that besides having a brand such as Uncle Waffles, who's quite, internationally well known and she's quite renowned, was the fact that it gave us an opportunity to play with as much creative elements of mixed medium formats with video as possible. So graphic design, we did a couple of cutouts where we used an inspiration from one of Big Sean's music videos, where he's like cut out and you've got all these graphics taking place in the background. So if you watch the behind the scenes of the Coca-Cola, you'll see some influences of that. Got to have fun with some of the propping elements, and Coke as a client is amazing. And yeah, we're looking forward to, there were about 7 films that we needed to create with them. They needed to be like small little 15-second spots, which are pretty cool. And yeah, we're excited about that one. So I'm sure for them it was even harder having to say yes and no to other family members, and like no to other family members and yes to other family members who are going to appear, and people that they've wanted to rather not like publicize and put in a public eye, had to now make this cameo where they're going to be seen by the world essentially. But I think what made that process so special and memorable was the fact that it was happening at a time when we were losing people, because we shot that project at the end of 2020, and that year, like, people were going left, right and center. And I think the only thing that people really valued at the time was the closure of family. And so there was this understanding of like, you know what, I'm willing to go out of my way to showcase a part of myself that I have not done so before. Like there were new things that we learned, about Nhlanhla's daughter, Nhlanhla's son, a son who passed on, and that she had taken another child on, which kind of filled that void. We learned about Theo's wife and his kids and the fact that she was pregnant when they're getting married. We learned about, so many, about a nephew of his that went missing. There were so many things that, like, honestly came out of that entire process. And as a logistical nightmare as it was, it really created something special and, like, memorable,
That's a wrap, guys.
Sweet!
That's a wrap.